And boom! Welcome this morning to Spirit Sessions of View of the Light. You're a beautiful family, and we're all coming together. And today we have another family. I'll call it the Mitchell-Hedges Stone family. And we've got so much healing and learning to do. This show is for you today. Come in and enjoy what's here. There's something you might want to feel or know or sense. So grab your tea and come on in. And welcome to the show. Welcome, Rhonda. Welcome, Bex. Welcome, Stephanie, Bill, and Carol. We have a whole crew here today, and right there, you have the Mitchell-Hedges Stone. So, Bill, today, you or Bex, explain that day at a time and how how, what a great day to come together it is.
Well, it's yeah. Most people are not aware of it, but with the Mayan calendar, this is the day that they 1 year ends, a no time day, and then tomorrow the next calendar starts. So we're right in the middle, but it's a very powerful day for each one of us because the creation is real strong, and to really to make it work, and it works with our mind and our hearts. So by putting our minds and our hearts into it, uh, we can make the next year that's coming up a year that we for blessings and prosperity and peace and happiness for our family. And this day and age where all this stuff is happening, to say that it seems a little strange, but because you hear so much in the news. The news is is programmed to keep you from using your God-given gifts to create good things. And but today, let's create good things and think about the future, and let's make a positive growth time. There's all these different people, and they're coming with different ways. That people are coming. That the ET people are coming. The people that are coming back from they've passed on and they've come back and they have a message. All these different groups are all here, and they're all very important because each one of them is saying different but similar things. Things that say that, hey, we're more than our physical body, we're spiritual beings, and we need to understand and connect to that. And that's what it's all about. I work with the Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull. A lot of you maybe have never heard of it, but it's very special in the fact that no one knows who made it or how it was made, and uh, it's considered one of the most mysterious artifacts in the world. Things about the skull is it's made against the grain, which would be impossible. Who did that? It has lenses and prisms that are built inside the crystal itself, and to build that, it would take zero gravity because you'd have to be in an area where there's no gravity to be able to form the crystal in such a way that the lenses would be perfectly made inside of it. It's got this 90-degree turn inside of it. It takes the light from underneath and brings it up and shoots it out the eyes, which has a pretty interesting effect, probably especially for the natives when they used it that way back 1,000 years ago or whatever. But and it has no tool marks anywhere on the skull. It's made perfectly made in two pieces. The jaw is separate, and the molines line up perfectly. So whoever did that or how it was done, that's another one of the mysteries. And so basically, when it comes right to it, it's here, and it's here because what we hear from the different seers and stuff, the ancients have placed this here to help the world at a time when we need help. And I very, very much feel that we're in that time right now. But the way it helps and the message that comes through strongly, that it's all about love, and it's connection between the heart and the mind and sending out this universal love. So what you will probably feel, because most people do, that are used to energy, they'll feel it right in their heart, and you can feel it sitting in your living room or wherever you're at. It just comes right through, and it's a very peaceful, very gentle energy, but it really is opening us up to who and what we are to bring through all our potentials at a time when the world needs us all to come together and realize that, hey, we need to work together as one if we want to come into a higher consciousness. So uh, the skull, to where it came from, as we know, and the legend was found by a British explorer who was down in Central America back in the 20s, 19s and 20s, looking for a connection between Atlantis and the Maya. And he heard about a lost city, and he was able to find another city, which was Lubantun. And they took years, but they uncovered 4 or 7 pyramids, and then the tallest one, uh, there it was always said that be really careful up there. The rocks had moved because there was volcanic action in the area, and you could break a leg very easily, or there was a lot of snakes. So all the kids were told never to go on the pyramids, but also they heard that if you went to the top of the tallest one, you could see all the way to the ocean, which was like 20 miles away. And Anna, his adopted daughter, was very adventurous. Really, what we say is, hey, did you know that the real Indiana Jones was a woman? Because Anna was definitely fit that criteria, because she was very, very adventurous, and she had a tendency to always get in the most interesting positions. And so, but she heard about that if you got up there and everybody was taking a nap in the middle of the day, and it was up because it was so hot, and the kids snuck to the top because they wanted to see the sea. And while they were up there, the sun at high noon was behind clouds, and all of a sudden it came out and it went through the rocks that had moved slightly, and there was a light inside the pyramid. And she told her father she was in big trouble, but he decided there must be something there. So the next day they started opening it up, and it started to collapse. And so then they had to go very slowly, moving rock by rock, till they finally got a small hole big enough for a small person. And they chose Anna, and they tied ropes to her and lowered her into this pyramid. This pyramid had been covered up by the jungle, and it hadn't been opened for over 1,000 years. And here she's going into it. Sounds like Indiana Jones to me, doesn't it?
Yes.
So she went in there, and she felt around, and she found something, and she put it in her shirt. And when they pulled her back out, opened her shirt, and the natives saw it, it was like their God had returned. And it was so powerful that Mitchell-Hedges presented to the high priest, who had it, and they put it in the altar, and they burnt fires around it 24 hours a day, and people would come from all over to see the skull. And it was there for 3 years like that. And then when they had to leave, they had so many years they could be in this expedition and working on this. So they had to leave, and then the high priest presented it back to Mitchell-Hedges for safekeeping. So he had it from 1927 until he passed away in 1959. It went back to his adopted daughter, Anna, and she had it till she passed away in 2007. And in 2007, she passed it on to me. And it's, it's beautiful. It's very uh, uh, special, but there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it too. But I feel that it's an important time to help mankind. So that's why I'm here today, and that's why I travel with it, is giving people a chance to experience it. And it's, some people, some different groups will say, oh, it's an idol. But no, it's a tool to help mankind. Just like your car, you want to go to the store, you get in your car and drive there, and it's a tool to get you there. The skull is a tool to bring us into this higher consciousness. And so
I love it.
it's a door that you can't push on. You just have to let it open. And when you do it, some pretty amazing things happen. So I just kind of gave you a little bit of a rundown. There's a lot of stuff. If you go to the Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull Facebook page, there's a lot of information too. But kind of gave you a little rundown of the skull. and what it's here to do. It's here to work on individually on people's hearts and open them to this higher consciousness, getting people that a lot of times we push away all our gifts and abilities because we've been made fun of or what else as we're growing, and it puts up these barriers to our full potential. The skull has a tendency to bring it right in your face and have you come in contact with it and bring it out, because that is the only way you will find real happiness, is if you're in balance with who you and what you are and your purpose. Your purpose is here to be yourself and bring out these gifts. So that's what it's all about. So we're
What a
gonna,
beautiful blessing for all of us, the planet, for sure.
yeah. So I just wanted to, you know, for people that didn't know anything about it, give you a little bit of a rundown on the skull. But I'm here with Carole Davis, my good friend, and we work very closely together with the skull. And she's the one that wrote the book, The Skull Speaks, that was channeled through her. She's connected to the skull very strongly, and she'll probably be giving us some messages today if they're coming through. But
Yeah, if her internet is coming through too.
okay, is Carole on or not?
I hear her coming back though. Let's see. Isn't
Okay.
that just in time?
Good timing, Carole.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, we're just talking about you, Carol.
Oh, good things.
yeah, so I just kind of told them a little bit about the skull and some of the things, not really what we're doing a little bit, but how are you doing, Carole? Let's what
Good.
we what we do is uh, find adventures, and we find the adventures. Carole finds things and sends me to do it. So that's my job, I guess.
Yes, that's your job.
That's my job.
Well,
I I love that
Sorry
relationship you
you're
guys have.
backlit, Carol, but we're not really trying to disguise how you look. You're just kind of backlit today.
well, we have some interesting adventures, that's for sure. But I could. Well, you want me to
Yeah,
tell
why don't you
you?
tell once? Yeah, why don't you tell a little bit about how Sammy contacted you that one day in Toronto and said, "Hey, let's go pack your bags." What was that about? How did that go?
Well, first of all, they have to know about Sammy, who is Anna Mitchell-Hedges. Now, if you had seen, there was a TV series about the stately homes in England, and Sammy was very much an English lady. She entertained anybody who knocked on her door, and I mean entertained. And that was the English lady, and the other part of her was a tough lady. Oh, very tough. So I'd got to know Sammy over the years, and this one day she called me and she said, "Hi, dear," which she always said. We're going to Belize. And I said, "Oh, that's nice, Sammy. When are you going?" So she said, "Well, can you be ready by next week?" Pardon? She said, "Yes, you and I and Bill, we're going to Lubanton." Oh, okay, I think I said. And so we're going, this would probably be a Sunday. We will be going like Wednesday. Okay. So you have to remember that at this time, Sammy was 92. Yes. so I thought, okay. So anyway, we met, and we landed, and we've asked, I guess, the taxi driver to take us to a hotel. Well, you have to know me. If it's less than 4 stars, don't bother. So he said, "Oh, on the water, this was going to be." So we get there, and it's called Hotel California. And it's basically a shed with a couple of beds in it. And yes, it's on the water, all right. Just about standing on stilts. And I look at it, and remember, she's 92. And she says, oh, that's nice. Of course, Indiana, hey, that's a 4-star for him. He's used to tents and roughing it, and so he's quite happy. Anyway, we stay there for a little while, and then Sammy wants to go somewhere else, so we go somewhere else, and we are staying in this very nice hotel, and Sammy wants to go to a certain area, so she sends Bill to get a car. And Bill comes back and he says, okay, he says, I had a bit of difficulty because all the transportation is owned by the drug cartel. I thought, that's great. That's getting better all the time. Anyway, I got this, and we go out, and there's a flatbed truck and a driver who is about 93. And the truck was new when he was 18. And the cab part only seats 2 people. So Sammy and the driver getting along famously. He can't speak much English, but it's okay. Bill and I are in the back, and we set off for this place. And I'm thinking, drug cartels, nobody's around. We're miles away from anywhere. And we're traveling through this. It's extremely hot. We're traveling through this desolate part. And I hear myself say, which I try to control around Bill, wow, Bill, over there's this cave where all the ancient people used to meet, and they would go, and it's a special area, and you can actually get to the ocean if you go down in this cave. Bill, he's out the truck, and he's going. And I bang on the back of the truck, because it's not going very fast, of course. Stop. So everybody gets out. He's gone. He's running. And Sammy and the driver chatting each other up and having a whale of a time. And I'm looking around the mountains, and we're out. There's nothing. And it's 92 degrees. And Bill is gone. So we stand there for a while. And after a while, he's coming back. And I think, wait till he gets back here. And he says, you're right. He says, but we need some ropes, and we're going to go. I said, get in the truck now. He was all ready to go down this hole. He wanted some ropes. So you don't say around Bill, there's such and such, because he's after it. And that was quite the adventure. There's times when I hear myself saying things, and I think, be quiet. Don't, for goodness sake, do that. But yes, Bill will go anywhere for an adventure. And that was the start of our adventures in Belize or Honduras. And we did have a lot of fun.
I don't know if I'm okay. Yeah, well, you know why? We also went to Homann, and Sammy wanted to go there because her father had connections with the archaeologists there. And so we went, Sammy had it all planned out, and we just kind of followed her, and we didn't realize it till we looked back later and, oh, there it is. But we were there, and we were working with the archaeologists when this is right when they found the Red Lady of Homann, and they were just uncovering it. And it was new to the world, but they just made an announcement of it. And we were working with these archaeologists, and they asked Carole questions, and Carole was able to tell them exactly what was in the tomb, how it was laid out. And then she started telling them stuff they hadn't found before. So they were like extremely blown away on that one. That was quite interesting. And I got a good invitation out of that. Thanks, Carole.
Carole, where do you get that information when you get it? Are you getting it through the skull, or is this your channeling?
Where does it come from? I don't know. I don't. Sometimes I hear myself talking, and the me part of me saying, is sort of sitting back saying, whoa, what, you know, especially in the, where Bill is concerned, you know, it's like he needs to know this, so it just blurts out at times. But when we went with the archaeologist, what had happened was that a person whose ancient site we went to, after she met Bill and I, she said, you have to meet with an archaeologist friend of mine. You could give them information. And I'm sort of the reluctant one. Anyway, they set up a test, which is what we didn't know. They set up a test to test the information. Well, as it's not mine, I'm always pretty confident. You know, I've been tested many times by some of the universities, etc. Anyway, as Bill said, the test got passed, and they were very impressed, and they offered me a great honor, and this was to go down in. They only just start excavating this tomb, and they said, "Well, we are going. No other person is allowed. You know, this great honor," and they said so. And he was the minister of archaeology in the country. He said, "I am allowing you to go down into this tomb." And my answer was, Bill will go. Bill will go. No, I don't go down into. Bill will go. And he sort of looked at Bill and he says, Bill says, no, she won't go. Yeah, I'll go down. Anyway, they then honored us with another procedure, and that was a sweat lodge, a really traditional sweat lodge. Bill will go. I didn't go. Bill went. Bill went.
You sat up on the patio and had drinks, and I was down over the hill in the sweat lodge, sweating away. Yeah. But what was interesting, though, we went to town, and Sammy wanted us to meet with some people that were, the family was the original archaeologists, and they had some property there, but we didn't know it. But I got Carole on a horse, and we rode up this huge hill, up to the top where the hacienda was, and met with the lady that was the family of her grandfather was the archaeologist that Mitchell-Hedges worked with. And there's some really important archaeological stuff that's left. And the whole area is just loaded with stuff. But around that hacienda is very, very powerful, and there's might even be another receptacle of mind. That's what you call the skull. The skull is a receptacle of mind. They don't always have to be in the shape of a skull, but it has to be one that has been with its more knowledge. And so here's Carole on a horse, and we rode up there. We had a good time, didn't we, Carole?
Oh, yes, Bill.
I did.
Yeah. He said, well, we're going to this site, and it said, I got excited because I like archaeology. And I said, okay, how do we get, well, we walked down here. So we walked down a little way. And then he said, okay, that's your horse. I said, excuse me? Yeah, we got to ride a horse up there. I said, no. I'm my size. I'm not getting on the poor back of a horse. He said, oh, it'll be fun. You can. So they hoist me up on this poor horse. And we get to the place. And so now I'm thinking, how do I get off of here? Anyway, we got down, and it is a very, very powerful place. And the ancient Mayas, now you have to think about this. Only the nobility were allowed to go to this area to birth their children. And it's called the birthing place, but it's still in ruins, hasn't been excavated. And so Bill and I wandered up to the area, which is kind of cut off from people. And I said, this isn't just a birthing area. This is a portal. And it's waiting to be opened. Only the right people will open it. It's waiting to be opened. and it is a birthing place, but it's a birthing place where the ETs come through. And it's been closed down for, millions of years now, but it's sitting there waiting to be opened. And
like a Stargate, Carol?
pardon me?
Like what they, Stargate, like a Stargate kind of portal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And what is interesting is that, I can't tell that. Okay. Okay. It's a very interesting place, waiting, I suppose, waiting for what we call time to be opened. And I see Bill going. He'll do it.
I'll do it. I'm ready.
Bill, go.
Well, what it is that one of the predictions you came through with, that if they were to uncover stuff there, they would see the connections between the ETs and the Mayan people. It would be so strong that they couldn't deny it. So that was quite interesting at that site.
Yeah, it was.
Carole, do you connect to the skull directly, like right now? Can the skull give us a message for our audience or something like that? And then,
it's not something. How do I put? It's not something I do. It's something that the skull will. The skull instigates whatever information it gets. Can I personally ask the skull something? No, I can't both ask the question and answer it. It's rather like, well, it says of itself, it is a computer. Now, when I first came to know the skull back in the 70s, I didn't know what a computer was, and I'm not very good now, as you see. But way back then, it described itself as a receptacle of knowledge. And it has been pre-programmed. And if I get this right, by 13 of the Atlantean masters. But Atlantis was not a place. It was not a piece of geography. And it says this many times. You're looking for a piece of geography when it was a state of mind, meaning that the Atlanteans, which were a race, I believe, of extraterrestrials, were in many places around the earth. And what they did was, before time, you see, people will say, oh, the Akashic records of the skull. There is no Akashic record, because that is the Akashic record. It was programmed before there was time. So you can't go back into its time, because there wasn't any. Time was left as an illusion for us by the deterioration of our bodies, so that we could reincarnate and presumably make a deeper connection with our soul, which is the program we run by, the universe is run by. So can I say, oh yes, the skull says this? I can't. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. If there's a message to be given, I will often hear it, and it talks in a very different way than my speech patterns. So I know that when I hear these kind of speech patterns, that it's something that it wants to be given out. And if it wants to give out some message, let's do it. You can ask the skull.
Oh, and you might hear its reply for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so skull, do you have a message you'd like to impart to our audience and to the world right now? Something some piece of wisdom that you might want to give us that we can all use on this day out of time?
But let's carry on, and
Okay. And I just wanted to know, Stephanie, how did you meet Bill and Carole? Can you tell us how this came about, this trio of wonderfulness?
Well, I was in 2000. I was watching an ancient alien show, and Bill and the Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull were on the show. I paused my TV because the doorbell rang. I answered the door. I came back. I sat down. I went to start it, and I hear this voice say to me, "We are going to be great friends, and you and Bill are going to be like brother and sister." And I was looking to go like, did I start? Did I start it or? And it wasn't it. I was like, okay, I'm good. 2000. In 2018, I got a call from uh, a girl that we talked on the phone. I hadn't really met her, and she said, "Bill and the Skull are going to be at my house. Can you come?" Uh-huh. I can come. Yes. So it's a big deal because first of all, it was 8/8/2018. I have a allergy, so I don't leave the house very much. I bought new clothes and I was there. I was not missing that. So I walked in and Bill was standing in the kitchen and the skull was on the table. And as I walked by, I heard, "Hello there." And I thought it was somebody, like that was sitting on the sofa, but it wasn't. And I looked at the skull and I kind of bobbed my head and walked over. And Bill and I started talking and we were, just, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you, blah, 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 blah." And both of us said, it feels like we've been friends forever. It felt like we knew each other. And it was, a couple of more times we had talked. And I said to him, "Well, do you have, any social media?" Yeah, being nosy, basically, is what I was doing. And Phil said, "No, we're trying to get that together." And then for some reason, I'm standing there, but I hear a voice that sounds like mine, and it says, "Yeah, I can help you with that. I wouldn't mind." Um, and I'm thinking, who is this? And why is he saying this? Shut up, shut up. It's like, but that's what happened. We spent the rest of the day. I came home that night. It must have been about 10 by the time I got home. And that night, I started the page for the Mitchell-Hedges Crystal Skull. A couple of months later, we did the meditation. It just kind of flowed, and like it's true. When you connect to the skull, you get inspiration. It and it literally, it likes to wake me up in the middle of the night. Stephanie, Stephanie.
Sort of been voluntold, right?
Yes.
That's what we call it here.
Go do this, do this, do this. I do. Yeah, I get up, I do it, and I go back to sleep. But
Yeah. Yeah.
my favorite thing is everything has only been for growth and the integrity of getting the message of the skull out there. But
So
the thing that really has been for me the most is that I have grown, I have changed, I have become more of me than I could have ever dreamed. I, Working with the skull, and it's not so much as I go, "Oh, well, tell me this or tell me that." I just open to what I need to do in my journey, and it shows up. If you guys could see the my, as Bill and Carol call it, my rig that I have. I started with an one iPad and on this rickety little stand. I now have this beautiful assemblage of electronics to help do this. So that's how, you see, this was my art before the stuff. This is my art now.
That's quantum. That is really cool.
So,
So,
and it's interesting because the work I do, I have my own modality, is quantum, but
okay.
I never dreamed it would be this. I never dreamed that what comes out now is so. When Bill and Carol says it takes what you have and makes it unbelievably just something that explodes from you, just as natural. But it like pushes the on button, and you are on,
Is
and
So,
that
it's
what
just
happened with you, Carol, too, with your books that you wrote?
Carol, could you tell about how you first met the skull?
Okay. Back in the 70s, I was doing, I was working with some archaeologists and law enforcement people. And a couple came up to me. I had been working on a case, and they had been involved in it. And they said afterwards, "Would you like to see the crystal skull?" And I said, "No, thank you." I didn't know what it was. And the word skull, I'd seen enough. My background is medical, and I'd seen enough skulls. Thank you. And I said, "Thanks, but no thanks." And all right. So time goes on, a couple of weeks, and then the same couple with another person said, "Are you sure you wouldn't like to see the crystal skull?" I said, "No, thank you." And I thought, what are these people into? Skulls and bones and weird stuff, and because you meet a lot of weird people in this. and they said, "Oh," and all I could think of was, excuse me, is like a crystal wine goblet or something. I didn't know about quartz crystal, so I thought something made of glass, and I thought, very weird. Now the third time they approached me, they had somebody up there, was 4 of them, and they said, this guy says, "Well, with your interest in archaeology, I thought you'd like to see this crystal skull because it's an archaeology find and no one can tell how old it is." And I said, oh, well, okay. So they arranged for me to go and see the skull. And it was snowing. Person in Ottawa, you can appreciate the snow. So we did a 2-hour drive, and we get there to this house, and I'm literally getting out of the car, and one of them turns to me and says, "By the way, don't say anything psychic, because the lady that owns the skull has had some bad times with so-called psychics." And I thought, I'd get back in the car. What am I doing here? Anyway, they persuaded me to go in. We get to the door, and the lady answers the door and say hello. And she says, "Oh, you're English." She said, "I haven't met a lot of English people here. That's exciting." And I said, "Well, actually, I'm Welsh." And a voice behind her said, "That's even better. Come on in." And that was her secretary, Cynthia, who was Welsh. So I was in, no matter about anything else. I was English and Welsh, and I'm in. And she was most delightful in her entertaining, and we were there for at least a couple of hours. And I think as I walked in, the skull was right opposite the front door on a table, and I, of course, was mesmerized by the beauty of it. I had never even visualized what this skull would be, and that was it. We had tea and sandwiches, and I figured, okay, we're going home now. And then Sammy said, "Oh, you came to see the skull, didn't you?" And I thought, okay, don't say anything psychic, right? Keep your mouth shut. So she brings it over and plumps it down in front of me, and I'm on her Chesterfield, and the other 4 are around, and Sammy. And then they start, "Oh, did you see that? oh, look at that face. Oh, look at this. Did you see that? And I thought, uh-oh. And I'm looking and I don't see anything. And I think, oh, here we go. It's the Emperor's New Clothes. And they keep saying, Carole, what do you see? Carole, what do you think? And I'm going, oh, And I think, oh, this is not for me. So I'd sit back and I put my arm like this, and I think, because this is me, the person. I think if I close my eyes, they'll think I'm doing something really profound, and they'll leave me alone because I didn't see anything. So the next few minutes, I think it's a few minutes, I hear this sound, and I think, oh, geez, I've fallen asleep and I'm snoring. And I think, in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to get out of this now? What do I do? So I hear people say, that was fantastic. And so I say, yes, it was. And they say, well, did you hear it? I said, hear what? And they click the tape recorder on, which I didn't know they had. And there's this voice, and it's relating all about the history of the skull and the. And I said, who's that? And they said, it's you. I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. My voice doesn't sound like that. I don't talk like that. That's not me. And I look over at Sammy, and she's very happy. And she said, yes, it was, dear, yes. And that was so good. And she's very happy, and I am very unhappy because I'm a sort of in control person. That doesn't happen to me. And I grew the way I am, so I know, and I have to be in charge. And when you fight with homicide cops over certain information, you got to be sure that. Anyway, there were 2 tapes, and it had been 2 hours long. And I thought, I'm out of here. I want nothing more to do with this. This is not for me. Out I go. And the next Sunday, a phone call, and it says, it's Sammy. Hi, dear, she said. How would you like to come for tea? Because I don't know too many English people here, and it would be lovely to have you for tea. And she was very sweet. I said, oh, okay. So I go up, and we're having tea, and we're talking, and the skull's sitting on the table, and I thought, oh, we're near you. And there's a knock at the door. And Sammy answers the door, and there are a few people standing there who say, we've come to see the skull. And this was Sammy. She had no idea these people were coming. She said, oh, yes, come in. She said, and there's a lady here that knows about the skull. So I'm looking in the kitchen thinking, what was she talking about? And thinking it's Cynthia. And she says, come. And they said, well, can we, sit with it? Oh, yes. And she plumps it down in front of me. And I'm saying, well, I think I should go now, Sammy, because you got people here. And she said, no, you stay. And the next thing I know, I don't realize my eyes have been closed. I look across at the people who are sitting, and they're going. And I look at the skull, and I think, oh, no. No. And apparently it had given a lot of information to these people, whoever they were, we didn't know. And that was the second time. Following Sunday, I get a call. Hi, dear, are you coming for tea? Are you having any visitors? No, I don't think so. Okay, I'll come for tea.
It must be kind of freaky to have it slip seamlessly into you without even indication.
Without any awareness. The first thing so when I went the third time, as I go in, the skull is in its same place, and I look at it and I said, Sammy, does that skull smile? And she said, oh, yes, dear, she likes you. And it was as if there was a face over it smiling. But the smile was very comforting, like very warm, not a very peaceful kind of a smile.
Like it's smiling now?
Yes. anyway, that began the years of my going sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, and staying over with the skull. I got to be more comfortable with it. One time when I was there was a writer, and he said, well, all this information is coming from the skull. Why don't you write a book? And Sammy said, yes, I want to write a book. And this is my dog. And so that's how we came to write a book. And I went there for every week, sometimes twice a week, and the book took a year. There was much more information that came, but we only put so much of it in the book because it was so far in advance of anything that was out there that the writer felt that it was too fantastic. Now, one of the funny stories, very quickly, is when the book was finished, the day it was finished, every time we'd finish a session, the writer and Sammy would have a most beautiful little glass of, and I don't drink alcohol. All I can tell you, it's very red. It's a deep red, and it's in a beautiful little glass, and they would have a glass. The writer was terribly British. He always wore his flannels and his tie and his blazer, and he spoke with a very British accent. And there was a coffee table in front of him. He had his glass. Sammy was over here. The other side was a person that lived in the area that did some work for her, and he was German and a big, really big man. And they were having a conversation. I was sitting in the chair at the side, and he said, the German guy said, I don't believe in any of this skull stuff. I've been here every day, doesn't do anything for me. And Brian Hadley James, who's the writer, he said, well, actually, he said, I also don't believe anything fantastic about the skull. And he's got this drink. And very slowly, his hand comes up like this, and he tips the whole glass in his lap. And he's looking at his hand because there's nothing he can do about it. So this red drink goes all over his gray flannels. The German guy leaps right over the skull and over the coffee table and out, and he never came back. No, where was I? I was in the floor. I was laughed so hard. And a tiny bit of the interesting thing, the chair was blue silk, antique, and not one drop of this, whatever it is, went on that chair. It was just all on this one. So those were my remembrance of stories of the skull. And over the years, before we even put the book out, we had all kinds of people come to test the information. PhDs, scientists, medical doctors, you name it. And one of the people that came that I remember, because this is going on twice a week for years, was the people that have eventually invented, now we have the Tesla car. And I remember it because of the word Tesla. And they came to get information because it wasn't working. But yeah, people that Sammy would tell me afterwards, these people would try to argue, physicists and everything, and I can't work a computer, and they would try to argue with the skull, and then the skull would put them in their place, and Sammy would giggle. She would say afterwards, "Oh, the skull told them this, and the skull told them that," and it argued, and then the skull was right. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. And in Mr. Bill's basement, he has all of these tapes. So one day,
Sunday, we're going to get those tapes out and go over all the old stuff. Yeah, that'll be neat.
And maybe do another book?
Oh,
we are going to do another book.
Yeah, we're doing another book. Yeah, we're going to have it, the Skull Speaks, and then numeral 2, and then the letter U. So the skull speaks to you.
Oh.
Are you?
When's that coming out?
Oh, we started working on it. We were working on it when we were together out. See, because it's kind of hard now because it's very hard to get, we can't even cross the border.
I'm in prison.
But
I
we
can't
were
even go to Buffalo. So.
we were in Scottsdale working together, and we were doing a lot of work with the book, trying to get some more stuff for the book. And we were out on a patio, and it was this cloudy day, and Carole was in trance, working with the skull, and she would say something and it would happen like 1 or 2 days later. Like we were out there, and she said that the ETs were going to show themselves, and so that after that and that night, we were out running around looking to the sky and everything like that. And we didn't really see any ETs, but the next day, all over the news, that was the day the pilot had the ET counter right over Phoenix, and so it was. She'd say something that would happen a day or so later. So that was quite interesting how we did that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So Stephanie, Bill, and Carole, you're all hooked together into this project, and
yeah. Would you like to do a slow or a meditation, or does any of the people have questions they'd like to ask?
Patty Husa said she I'll put it. So tell us about your meditation group so people can join that, so they can sort of get more information and join that meditation group that you have that's free to go into.
Okay, well, we do 2 meditations a month, one at new moon and one at full moon. It's best to join the Mitchell-Hedges Facebook page meditation, because then Stephanie will send you out the exact time when it is. And it's a Zoom room meditation, and we just get together. What is happening right now, it's very important. The skull is saying that it's all about love, and love is so important. And it's a matter of getting the heart and mind working together and realizing how important we all are, and working with the indigenous, because the indigenous have the connections to the land, they have the connections to these galactic forces, and it needs to be brought more into more people's consciousness. So I love working with them, and all the different groups are coming together, but it's coming together we have to realize that we are really one family, and that's what the skull is saying. That our consciousness is one consciousness, that we're all connected, and we have each one of us is individual self coming from that. But if we start and feel individual, we don't have our true power. So it's coming back into our power and coming together with the whole of the group. So that's what the skull is doing, and that's what we do, is work on opening up people's heart to this universal love. So we do work for the planet and really the world and the universe, really, and these connections we do. So if anybody feels that's important and like to do that, we'd love to do that. You can join us any one of the times you want to. Just get on there.
And Carole comes in and Stephanie comes in, and 2 on these.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Awesome.
basically, Carole will come with her messages if they come through, and they do. She gave a message that there was going to be a white buffalo born, and that was 2 months before it was born. Nobody knew anything about it. And she comes up with different things that are happening in the world, affecting us as a human race, and it just comes out. So it's quite, I'm super impressed with Carole. I just sit back and
He doesn't tell me.
am in awe of what comes through her. So yeah.
He doesn't tell me that. He usually tells me, be nice.
Be nice, Carole. Yeah, you told me to go You do it, and I do it, and I tell you to be nice, because, yep.
Hey, Bex, Bex usually has a great question. So, Bex, what's your question?
I don't really have a question. I'm just soaking it up. The stories are amazing. I just, I'm absolutely just enthralled with the history that you shared, your experiences, and I just want to hear more. I could listen to this all day and just be absolutely just basking in the energy of the skull and the love of the people here. It's just beautiful.
Well,
Yes. Somebody just asked, did the skull ever mention the pandemic? Yes, apparently. I didn't know because I haven't read the two books, The Skull Speaks and Beyond the Veil of Time. The reason I haven't read them is because me, the person, would argue with the information that's in the book. So apparently, Stephanie told me that in the book, Stephanie will tell you, because it does mention that. What does it say, Steph?
It talked about how there's sound and a vibration that can help dispel these viruses and these man-made things that are being developed and are, will spread. Also, we have a blog on our website where you see the messages that Carole has given in the meditation. And we also have of YouTube where you can watch some of them. We're just starting YouTube, but where she's given these messages and we transcribe them, so you can go and read the blog on the website and get to that. I'm also
I put the link in the information to this video, so it's all in there
right now, guys.
It does say that there will be a disease brought about by mankind for which there will be something about that hasn't yet been named that will devastate mankind, and the cure, it will never get. The skull is not, if it cannot change it to a positive, then it doesn't give it. And it says the cure for all dis-at-ease is sound and light. And they're now coming out with, they found out that tumors have a certain frequency. Cancer has a frequency. So light and sound will be the answer to curing of man's man-made illnesses.
And that's so perfect because that's exactly how they did it in Atlantis. That was their healing techniques there. So it makes perfect sense. And they are seeing more and more about, the frequency of light and sound healing things that we didn't think we could heal or could be healed. That's powerful. Beautiful. What does it say about, what's coming, for the rest of this year even, or, what's coming for humanity right now? Like, what are we looking forward to?
Why don't you ask?
Okay. Hi, Skull. I gotta say hi. I gotta be polite. It's so nice to talk to you, and I really would like to know what is coming for humanity right now. What do we have to look forward to as we continue to evolve and transform as we have been?
Can you make that picture bigger so I can see the skull more? No, not mine. The skull one. That's better. So it's it's searching you haven't this is something it's asking permission to tune into your thought pattern. In other words, the questions is difficult, or you haven't voiced it in the right way, and it's asking permission to kind of search your brain pattern, your thinking. Do you give you permission?
Yes.
So your inquiring mind is questioning as to what you understand in your terminology to be your future, when there is no time and there is only the delusion of future and past. If you were to synchronize your thinking as to the now, the change which you are requesting is now, and the change which you are requesting is within you. It is not within that of other to bring about change, but it is within you to bring about change. We would advise, as to your thinking, to allow that which you have idealized to be in your thinking the truth, when there is much of a truth to be had within your small blue planet. As you can connect, and as many connect and become the minds of one, then you will see the changes with which you desire. There is the difficulty of personality, there is a difficulty of understanding, but when you allow the minds of one to link, then all information is there for your understanding. It is only the thinking of individual mind that blocks or clouds the perception of change. What does that mean? One mind, one thought of perfection. I think it's, what are you saying? I think it means that because we allow our personalities and our own thinking to cloud instead of joining as one mind. Once we join as one mind, then change. Once there is the linking of one mind, then the energy is there to perceive a change which will be of benefit to both the small blue planet and all who walk upon it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. That was beautiful. And I don't know what the experience typically is, but as soon as you asked if I would allow it to, see my thoughts or whatever, my mind went blank and my heart just swelled. So much warmth in my heart. Like it was trying to fight back tears because I could just start crying from all the love and
well, you should allow the tears, because what it also does is, I hope this is okay to say on a show, but you've had a lot of guilt and pain and you're still carrying it. And what the skull does, usually the first thing it does is release it. So you should allow the tears, because it is releasing the block you've had up. You can't do it alone, because although you try, your thought pattern gets in the way, but the skull cuts right through that. So you should allow the tears, because it's releasing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was such an honor. Thank you. Beautiful.
I think same. Oh, wait.
You're good.
Okay.
But Bill is muted. Bill, we can't hear you.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
muted.
I'm sorry. I got him unmuted. Sorry.
Yeah. Just that it's beautiful to be with you all here today. And share this love, and each one of us doing our part, and take what the skull said, and it was something that's what it's all about, coming into this higher consciousness, becoming one instead of separate groups, separate people, separate families. We're all the family of God, and that's what we have to see and what we have to learn. And it's these people with the one minds coming together. That's what the skull said is so powerful. It doesn't take the whole world, but just a strong group whose soul and spirit are, connected to the same thing of raising the consciousness of the planet. So much blessing. So is there, I could tell another story that's quite interesting, because it's the kind of story I like, but I don't know how much time we have or what you want to do.
We got time for a short story for sure, Bill.
Okay, well, since, I like adventure. You might know that or you may not, but I do. But one thing I really like about the skull, I was going through some old papers not too long ago, and I pulled out this old paper, and it was from the head of naval intelligence for England. And it was Mitchell-Hedges, and it was a coded letter. Didn't make sense because he was talking about stuff that was, why would he be writing to him about this? But then it was signed at the bottom, and the person that typed it was Ian Fleming, because he worked for the for the Secret Service and the different things during the war. And he said he was right. He was the one that typed the letter up to Mitchell-Hedges. So there's a connection between Mitchell-Hedges, because what he was doing down there, he was down there at a time looking for these powerful artifacts. At the same time, the Nazis were down there looking for powerful artifacts. So they had that connection. But I'm sure that Mitchell-Hedges was part of James Bond. So that's cool. And then Carole tells the story of having this gentleman call her from Toronto who was working up there, and wanted to know all about the skull and FA and about Anna. And she told him the stories. Then he wanted to meet her, so they called over there. And Anna was leaving to go to England the next day, so she couldn't meet with him. But Carole, you told him all the stories about Mitchell-Hedges and his different things that she knew. And that was in 1979. In 1986, he came out with Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you see Mitchell-Hedges, and if you ever read any of his books, he's the James Bond and the Indiana Jones rolled into one with the Crystal Skull. So I think that's pretty wild. And that's I like adventure. So how could I not love that and love that about the skull? So I just thought I'd like to share that. It's quite interesting. So, okay.
That's awesome, Bill. That's such a interesting.
pretty wild, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty interesting how it's all wound together with Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
And I'm sorry I had to keep muting you through the show, because you get so much feedback from the skull. Like, I don't know if you guys could hear all the noises.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I'm going.
He has a lot to say sometimes. But he's sending out much this love, and let it go into your heart. And we gotta take that love and share it in the world. That's what it's all about. So. Yeah.
I have some people saying, "Can you see how his third eye is pulsing?" The skull.
Sometimes, yeah. We did I have a great respect for the indigenous, and I have great respect for Chief Golden Eagle, who just passed. And it was really a shock to me, because he's bigger than life. And so we were doing a memorial for him, and we were doing it on Zoom, and Carole was saying, look underneath the eye, and they even took a picture of it. As we started, there was an indigenous elder just sitting right below the eye while we're getting ready to do it. So you never know what it might do. I've had some really interesting experiences with the skull, and it definitely keeps life interesting. So if you like adventure, that it definitely keeps you that way. So
Awesome. Bill, I put all the links to your story so everyone can read the history and into the Mitchell-Hedges pages in the description. And the links to everyone here, to Carole Davis and to Stephanie, are there too to read more about them. And they can contact the three of them. And is the book still in public?
Okay, you know what? That book, it was several years ago. Carole got on the internet and she found her book for sale, and I think it was $2,500 for this little $8 book. And she wasn't getting any money in here. It was her book, So she decided they put it on an ebook, and now we have ebook on our website, so you can get the book. There was 10 prophecies that the book had back in the 70s, and all 10 of them now come to fruition. So it's pretty amazing. But there's still stuff in the book that's coming out all the time. So it's quite interesting. Very powerful book. But it's you can get it on the Mitchell-Hedges webpage. It's like a ebook you can download. So,
anything else, Teresa, from you before we say goodbye?
Yeah, everybody just kind of close your eyes for a second and just let that love go right into your heart. And just take that and, hey, let's change some lives. So, blessings to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Carole.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. It's
Enjoy your day.
yeah, enjoy your day. On your no time day, but make sure you're thinking some really things that you want in your life. Make that life, your life fulfilled. What is your life fulfilled? Live that today and make it happen. Yep.
Let's do it.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We have really absolutely just enjoyed this time. It's been such a blessing and so much fun. Your stories are incredible. And we thank our audience for hanging out. And I real quick just want to announce the winners, the two winners, because we didn't announce one last week. So the two winners are Patty Husa, you won with me, congratulations. And Lynn Marie won with Teresa. So congratulations to both our winners. Please keep sharing this out, guys. Get the information out. The more people that are anchoring in this powerful love and connecting with the skull, the more we're bringing this world into a much higher vibration of, what we truly want to experience in this world.
Awesome.
Love and peace for everyone. That's what we're here for.
I'll take it out, and thank you all, and stay on. We'll see you on the other side. Just a sec.